Hi, welcome to my blog. It's my blog. Welcome to it. Hello. Welcome to Blog City, where the bloggy vloggy happens. Ouch. Yeah, hand's not too bad at the moment. I was thinking it might be some repetitive strain injury from playing Fallout all the time. But I didn't play Fallout last night. I went to bed and my hands weren't too bad. But this morning I woke up and they're all, crook hand again. Hand of the crooked man does not function properly. Does not communicate the functions of the working. Does not work properly. Yeah. Anyway, so I got on the bus this morning, walked up the stairs, holding on with my crunky hands. I dropped my bus pass holder with me cards in it, and it went all over the floor. And some young woman helped me pick it up, and I felt like a right old man being assisted by a young lady to pick up my blinking travel cards and credit card and bloody all that rubbish. Anyway, it's got 11. I'm going to try and do this poem that was requested by Spike. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. It's a bloody long poem. I'll probably... Oh, God, it's massive. I was thinking I maybe might do it over a few nights, but let's just see how it goes. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, "tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I sought to borrow from my books a cease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain filled me with fantastic fevers never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This is it, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more." Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortals had ever dared to dream before. And the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul with me burning, soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or ladies, perched upon my chamber door. Perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. "Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou," I said, "art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Much I marvel this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answers little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird abyssed upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as Nevermore. But the raven sitting lonely on the placid bust spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, Nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, with this grin ungamely, ghastly, gaunt and ominous bird of yore, meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burn into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining, the lamplight glowed o'er, but whose velvet violet lining, with the lamplight glowing o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Yeah. Still more to go. I should really try and do this another time, actually, but better. So I'm just going to carry on. But I might re-record it one day, try and doing it like with a little bit more, a little bit more time, patience, and probably sitting out because it's killing my throat. It's making my throat tickle sitting like this. Anyway, let's carry on. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God have lent thee, by these angels he have sent thee, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if, within the distant Aidenn, it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels named Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whose the angels named Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign in parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's plutonium shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is gleaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. Yes. It's an interesting poem. I think basically the raven, he's lost his woman Lenore. The raven visits him. He tries to entreat it to say, will I meet her again in heaven? Will I see her again in the afterlife? And then the raven just says, nevermore. I think that's the point of it. He's, yeah. What's that? Something to do with nepenthe. I think nepenthe. What's that? Left. No, I think nepenthe. I remember reading about that before. Something to do with forgetfulness. Like a, yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a potion of forgetfulness or something like that. Nepenthe. I don't know. Let's do this day on history. This day in history. On this day, the 28th of April in 1789, Fletcher Christian leads a successful mutiny aboard the HMS Bounty against the captain William Bligh. Yes, the infamous mutiny on the Bounty. I believe he puts the captain into a small ship along with his officers and sends them away. Don't they find some island and end up colonising it almost with all the natives? I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, in 1944, the Slapton Sands disaster claimed up to 750 American lives as troops rehearsed for the D-Day landings. That's terrible. How do you lose so many lives in an accident on rehearsing? I think my girlfriend's dad was telling us about that. He said I think they had to keep it secret for a long time after it happened because they didn't want the Germans to be aware that they were practicing for an attack. And wasn't it something to do with... Oh, he told us a story about it. They cocked something out. I don't know, they opened up the doors too quickly and everyone jumped off and drowned, or somebody used... I don't remember, there was some colossal cock-up to do with something. I remember him telling me. I don't know. I have to look that up now. It's got me thinking. Anyway... And a year later, in 1945, the Italian fascist leader Benito Mussolini is summarily executed after being captured by partisans. Wow. That was, I suppose, good work by the partisans, if that's what they was aiming to do. Yeah, Mussolini's one of the ones you hear about. I never really heard his story. I know he was a fascist dictator in Italy. But yeah, so he ended up being assassinated by, executed rather, by partisans. Okay, he probably deserved it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much of a bastard he was. He's not as well known as Hitler, obviously. Okay, that's my blog for the day. That poem was rather long. This probably means this video is rather long. But anyway, thanks for watching. I might record it again, but some other time I've got more time actually, and I might just put more effort into making sure I read it all properly. I made a couple of reading errors, small reading errors, because I was obviously reading it off the cuff. Anyway, I'm bugging off. Bye!